Right, my name is Gatete Nyiringabo. I'm a corporate lawyer in Kigali, but I'm also a political pundit. I write on politics. Right, so this conflict that we have today, which seems to come to the final stage, hopefully, is, as far as we're concerned, from a Rwandan perspective, we have clear demands of Rwandan citizens being arrested, detained, incommunicado, that means in ungazetted and gazetted detention facilities in Uganda, tortured, and without being presented to courts of law. This is the most pressing matter, but there are so many other outstanding issues that we have been rather forthcoming upfront with the Ugandan counterparts, at least the Rwandan government has been, telling them we want this and this and this and this and this to stop. But Ugandans have not been clear as to why they do this. So these Rwandans that are detained in Uganda, some of them are being expelled, are being called terrorists or spies and so on. Now, courts of law are there for a purpose. I don't say Rwandans are in Uganda are all innocent. But if Rwandans are in Uganda and they are criminals, these criminals need to be presented to courts of law. Then courts of law need to decide whether these people are guilty or innocent. It doesn't matter. That's how governments function. The fact that there's massive arrest, roundup and arrest of Rwandan citizens in Uganda, who then go to be detained, and now we have testimonies from some of them who are released, saying that they are given a choice whether to join RNC, which is another issue that we'll come back to, or to face detention and harassment. So Rwandans in Uganda are not safe, which is why Rwanda issued a travel advisory to its citizens not to travel to Uganda because of that, because it's unsafe to travel to Uganda. Now, when these Rwandans are presented to us, when they come back in very bad shape. Some of them are tortured, some of them died following these tortures and so on. Uganda said that most of these people are actually spies, but this is it's a paranoia that grows into a society when they say, beware, all the Rwandans in this society are spies. It's not the first time Rwandans are called spies. Rwandans in Rwanda were called Ibjitso. It's not true. It turns out they were not actually spies. They were just normal people living their life, but they were called Ibjitso. There's a narrative all over the world that Rwandans roam the world, that we have, that every Rwandan works for Kagame and is a spy and so on. This is not true, obviously. But yeah, but that's what they've been accused of. But even if there were spies, spying, there's a thin line. Someone can be called an intelligence officer or a spy, depending on how you want to qualify them. But Rwanda and Uganda, if they are friendly countries, what is it that Uganda is afraid of that these spies might find out? So much so that they are scared of Rwandan spies. What are they hiding? I'll tell you what they're hiding. They are working with militia movements that are based in Uganda that are building to eventually attack Rwanda. Some of them have actually attacked Rwanda in the past. You remember that grenade attacks in Kigali. We didn't used to have policemen with guns on the streets before. We have them today because we had issues of security, because people are coming in and throwing grenades on the streets. There is a training camp. There are all sorts of operatives who are with an expressed mission. They are very clear about what they want. They want to overthrow the government in Rwanda. They want to cause war to Rwanda. And these people roam free in Uganda. They're actually much freer than Rwandans who are doing business and so on. So when you join them, you live much freer in Uganda than if you didn't join them. So this is what the Ugandans don't want Rwandans to find out. So if Rwandans are there, Rwandans feel unsafe. Ugandans say Rwandans are unsafe because they're spying on them. What they're scared of is that if these Rwandans were spying on them, they would find out that Uganda is actually supporting these militias. Now, this is an act of war. In international law, in international humanitarian law, in the Vienna Convention on the law of treaties, states that harbor military, paramilitary movements and militias of all sorts training on their territory. States that lend their territory to negative forces like that, these states commit what we call in international law an act of war. So basically, it's not a small issue. It is a serious issue. When you have normally in good relationships between states, today, I'm glad you asked me this today the FDLR in DRC killed Mudachumura. Mudachumura is the head of the FDLR. Now, the FDLR is a movement that is organizing to fight Rwanda. We have proof and evidence that today the government of DRC...
We, who you?
We, the people of Rwanda.
Okay.
We, the people of Rwanda, I speak on behalf of people like me. I'm not a government official, right? Mm-hmm. I'm saying I see this in the information. Mm-hmm. Or we, the civil society, let's call it the civil society. I'm a member of the civil society. We have proof that the DRC, the FARDC, so that's the Congolese army, is actually actively fighting negative forces that are supposed to attack Rwanda. And the proof is they actually today killed their chief, Mudachumura. We do not have proof that Uganda is fighting militias that are supposed to attack Rwanda. On the contrary, we have proof that the Ugandan government, the state, is actually working with these movements. That's a different dynamic. Congo is a friendly nation, which is why Rwandans cross to Congo every day. Uganda is no longer a friendly nation, it's a hostile nation. Because in Congo, they are tracking down people who are supposed to attack Rwanda. In Uganda, they are supporting them. That's the difference. This conflict starts a long time ago. I mean, there was discussion, according to this book by Gerard Prunier, Setsen Dashonga already in the late 90s was already discussing with Ugandan government as to how to overthrow the government that was in Rwanda, because or perhaps to expand Ugandan influence over the government of Rwanda. Now, and again, hear me well, when I say we, I'm not meaning the government, but there's no difference really between the government, the civil society, the private sector. We are all stakeholders. This is our country. I'm a citizen. Whatever happens, if you target as a Rwandan, any other Rwandan, I feel targeted personally because I'm a citizen, I'm a stakeholder. This is where my people are from, this is where I'm from, this is where I live. So I see people trying to make a difference between who is in government. Government is a role. Civil society is a role. Business is a role, but we are all part of the same thing. I told you as a corporate lawyer, now we're discussing politics because it doesn't matter what you do. We are all involved in the same thing. But anyway, coming back to this, so back then they're already speaking of expanding their influence to Rwanda. That's not how it works. We're a sovereign nation. I mean, my parents and my elders, my seniors, they fought so that we can become in a free and self-ruled autonomous country. They wouldn't turn around and accept to be under the clout of some other person. Whether that person is happy or not with it is a different issue. If we go further, you will see that even Museveni was in Tanzania. He studied there and he grew up there. Does it mean that Nyerere then started influencing on Uganda's political life after Museveni was president in Uganda? No, Nyerere didn't have ambitions to influence other people. He was a visionary leader who wanted everyone to be free, as he was. I believe that this idea of abating Rwandan enemies, Rwandan militias and so on, and increasingly through the years, has been a relentless ambition to have an influence over Rwanda's political life. And I believe it has not worked well, because he should know, because when people earn their freedom, they do not like to move from one from colonialism to being under the French and now being under Museveni. Why would we accept something like that? It's not something that we would like to welcome. I believe I am not even government. Even I would not want to be under the clout of some some foreign power. Even this, look at this agreement that you were going to ask me about. The thing is, when you're working with someone, you need to be able to trust them. That's how a contract works. I told you I'm a lawyer. I work with contract agreements. You agree on something, and then the next day you come and you implement what you agreed upon. Now, it's difficult to have a counterpart with whom you can never agree on something and have faith in their capacity to implement what you agreed upon. Then the relationship is skewed. It's broken because there's no trust in that case. We have agreed on peace. Like right now, we've signed in Angola. There was 2 days ago, there was another event, an MOU was signed. But these MOUs are pieces of paper if people don't have the will to implement what is in those pieces of paper. Unfortunately, I do not even think Museveni is capable, either politically, either militarily, either in any shape or form, to implement peace with Rwanda.
Why?
I think there's a line that you cross and then you can't go back. And it's called riding a tiger. When you invite people from RNC to come and run your intelligence services, when you sign peace military agreements with the French, all right? How do you then tell the same people, how is he going to get RNC out of the military intelligence of Uganda? And so long as they're in the military intelligence of Uganda, they're going to continue we're going to continue to have a conflict. I don't see how. I do not see how. So there's a set of, there are so many things that were done by Museveni that is going to take so much to undo. I do not think he's capable of doing, honestly speaking. I was never in those agreement meetings. For example, there are hundreds of Rwandans in jail who were tortured and told things and made to do things. Rwanda will never agree with Museveni to have peace so long as these people are still detained, obviously. Right? So they'll say, okay, give us back our citizens. These citizens, when they come here, they can tell us things that are hard to believe. That's number one. You have a militia. Remember, Mobutu is the one who welcomed the Interahamwe and so on in the DRC to form the FDLR. Who did they rape and kill? And who did they rape? Did they rape Rwandans in DRC? Who did they kill? To this day, they're still fighting with them. When you invite people like that, people who have been, whom their countries have not been able to fathom, you invite them to your house. If I invite thieves in this house, you think I'm going to have any plate or spoon left in this house? I won't. So when FDLR was easy to invite, it's very difficult to go. RNC was easy to invite, and now they've opened their doors to intelligence, to whatever, to all sorts of levels of power in Uganda. They have given them capacity to harass Rwandan citizens who travel to Uganda. They have given them capacity to recruit into Rwandan citizens who travel to Uganda, probably also into Ugandan citizens. They have a militia. They have operatives. They have deployed their own operatives to work in the Ugandan system and benefit from the Ugandan government. How do you think you're going to recall them in a stroke of pen on an MOU with Minister Nduhungirehe and suddenly all these people come back and they pack their bags and go? No, you can't. So there's a problem. So when you torture people, you can't untorture them. When you invite militias in your system, you can't remove them easily. You can, but it's going to take a war. It's going to be a war between Kayumba and Museveni. For Museveni to make peace with us, he's going to have to make war with Kayumba, with the RNC. That's what it's going to take for us to be friends with Museveni. He's going to have to fight with the people in his own system. People who probably have access to intelligence, have access to state apparatus that we do not know. So there's a line you cross and then you can't uncross it. All this, I see them making this MOU. I'm absolutely pessimistic about it because it's impossible to, at this stage where the relationship has gone, it's gone to irreparable levels. What am I basing it on? I'm basing it on letters. I work with information that is out in the open. I do not have inside sources. Museveni wrote a letter to President Kagame in which he said he met, accident or otherwise. Right, so he accidentally met most of the RNC people. We have evidence in the media again that Museveni met with Kayumba, with Rudasingwa, with all these people. We have evidence in the media again, open to the public, that all these people are roaming free in Kampala. We have testimonies from people who've been released from Uganda. There was a long interview in the New Times and on YouTube of this young man who was detained, who went to Uganda to do business, small business. He was detained, he was tortured. He saw some of his colleagues and friends who were recruited into Kayumba's army in Uganda, his friends. This is not something that I'm coming up with. This is something that I saw on the internet, like you, like everybody else. I'm not the first one to tell you that Kayumba is working in Uganda, am I? That's a redundant argument. Do you want us to have conflict with South Koreans or Nepalis? Where are we going to meet to have a conflict together? People who have conflicts typically are North Korea and South Korea, are Israel and Palestine, are Rwandans and Congolese, then Rwandans and Ugandans, are Tutsis and Hutus, are brothers have problems, of course, because they live side by side. No one else has problems. So to say this is a problem of brothers, that's the most deadly problems in history of mankind. It's impossible for Rwandans to have conflict with Vietnamese. Where are Rwandans and Vietnamese going to meet? Basically, let's move on from that. It doesn't mean that the conflict is going to be solved easier. It doesn't mean that it's going to be harder to solve. It's just a fact that people who live together are the ones who have conflicts. I see this argument, people throwing it. I saw even Ugandan opinion leaders using it to say, but Kagame and Museveni are brothers, therefore they have a syndicate, they have something that they agree upon which we don't know. There's no such thing. We are all brothers. We're brothers with many brothers and sisters across. And we're surrounded by 5: Tanzania, Burundi, Uganda, DRC, and who are surrounding us. They are our brothers, all of them. Those are the people we can typically have conflict with because we are neighbors. Same thing that they have conflict with each other. Tanzanians have conflict with Ugandans. They've fought before. That's how it works, man. That's you. But coming back to the issue, why? What we see, what transpires, is what you saw. But if you go back, you will see a set of actions that were taken by Uganda with impunity. Rwanda never retaliated. They're not cleverer than anyone. The thing is they're not cleverer than us. We saw everything that they did. We had several developmental projects that they sabotaged. We never reacted to that. Rwanda, why does Rwanda go to pick up people in Kampala and take them to wherever? They don't have it. They just started an airline. I don't even remember. I haven't heard from it in a while. Why do Emiratis and Qataris and all sorts of other airlines from the world pick people in Kampala and fly them across the world, but Rwandans can't do that? We had a railway project with Ugandans. We had electricity projects with Ugandans. What happened? You think we don't know this? But that's their prerogative. It's their country. They can do whatever they want. That's bad faith. You can't punish someone for bad faith. When someone has bad faith, you let them be. You try to find other ways of surviving. There's a Kinyarwanda saying that says, "Ngosibo man." When someone bad, but that's bad faith. That's not acts of vote. You see the difference? When people have bad faith, like you have, people can be friendly and forthcoming and amenable to cooperate with you in development. You understand? Speeches in television and agreements and MOUs and press conferences mean nothing. We look at the actions. What are the actions? I'm telling you, our airline can fly everywhere else except it's called fifth freedom. Ugandans cannot allow Rwandan airlines. It can allow Arabs and Europeans to pick to airlines to thrive in Uganda. Rwanda cannot harness that route. We had the Gariamoshi project, which was supposed to come from Tanzania through Uganda to Rwanda. It reached Uganda, it never made it to Rwanda. We had an electricity project that was supposed to come through Ethiopia, Kenya, Uganda, and into Rwanda. It came all the way. When it reached Uganda, Uganda blocked it. We built, I used to evaluate government performance contracts when I worked in a think tank. I went to see some of the money that was spent by the government of Rwanda to build a high voltage line going to the shores of borders of Uganda. The line is there, but it's idle because Ugandans have refused to connect the line from Kenya to Rwanda. Offered to pay the line in Uganda, across Uganda, to the benefits of Ugandans so that we can connect. Uganda never accepted. Those are things that show you this brotherhood you talk about. This is not brotherhood. That's not what brothers do. Stabbing you in the back is not typical of brotherhood. So, but these are bad faith things. This is bad brotherhood. But that's one thing. What goes beyond bad faith is acts of war. Like I told you, acts of war, abating, supporting, helping terrorist movements on your soil to attack a foreign country. We've gone past bad faith. This becomes acts of war. Now, this issue is very well known to East Africans. Why do you think we had this agreement? Maybe that's the question that I'm anticipating. You should ask me. Why did you have this agreement? This is not the first time. We first did bilateral. Rwandan president went to Uganda to discuss this issue several times. Ugandan president came here. It didn't work out. All right? In administrative law, when there's a contention, there's an issue, you have three levels of. So you have what they call bilateral recourse. So you go directly to the person who you feel has injured your interest and tell them, I'm not happy with this, could you address it? Then you have hierarchical recourse. So you go to the next person, you escalate the question, and then when you can't, then you go to courts of law. That's what normally happens in administrative law, but that's basic. In the Rwandan case in Uganda, we had bilaterals. President Kagame went to Uganda and exposed the issue. Then President Kenyatta being involved in trying to work this out. So the East African community is very clear about who is at fault in this issue. Like I said, you cannot tell me, you're a journalist, you work for VOA. Tell me in your research, what exactly did Rwanda do to Uganda? Tell me as a journalist. Do you know? Do you have anything? Now, do you want me to tell you what Uganda did to Rwanda? I can list things. Do you understand? So, they have a militia. It's not mystery. Everyone knows that Kayumba, RNC, that all the people of the RNC are in Uganda right now. Everybody knows that Rwandan citizens are being trained in forests, Ugandan forests, to eventually attack Rwanda. Everyone knows that Rwandan citizens are being harassed in Uganda. These people come and give lengthy testimonies like the one I'm giving you in the media. Ugandan lawyers are saying, Ugandan media is saying this. Ugandan opposition is also denouncing these acts. So this is not a secret. It goes beyond bad faith. Bad faith you can live with. Acts like this, act of aggression, you cannot live with. Mm-hmm. Now, Rwanda has exposed all these issues to Ugandans. Ugandans have not reacted. Why do you think we need agreements now? This has been exposed also to East African leaders. Kenya is clear, Tanzania is clear about this, Ethiopia is clear, Sudan is clear, probably South Sudan is clear about this issue. Every evidence has been given. Do you know who was not aware of this, and hence in my opinion, the Angola agreement? It's the SADC. The SADC did not know who Museveni is, who Uganda is, and what has Uganda done to Rwanda. There's hearsay. oh, it's a brothers' conflict. You know, the usual mantra which mean nothing. Now we have exposed the issue to Kabila. Tshisekedi is very clear about what Uganda has done to Rwanda. You know why? Because it was interesting to see Museveni, Kagame, Lorenzo, and Tshisekedi in that agreement. A few months after Tshisekedi had arrested an FDLR element coming from meeting Ugandan generals and extradited them to Rwanda. Remember, by Isaiah Feast or something. So Kabila is very clear. No, it's true, sorry. Tshisekedi is very clear as to what a threat Uganda represents to Rwanda, because he frequently arrests people coming from Uganda, transiting through his country. People who are supposed to be terrorists on UN lists of terrorist organizations have one-on-one meetings with the leadership of Uganda. Congo frequently arrests them and transmit them to Rwanda. So Congo as well knows very well the Ugandan bad faith. So it was quite interesting to see Tshisekedi, sorry, I'll stop saying Kabila, to see Tshisekedi in that meeting. So Tshisekedi knows, and now the SADC, which is the Southern African Development Corporation, knows. The East African Community knows. The SADC knows. That was the only win that we got from. We never expected Ugandans to implement this agreement, ever. In my opinion. I do not see how. I don't think they can. But we want this to be an African issue. It's not a Rwandan issue, it's an African issue. The East African community, like I told you, is very clear about this. Now the SADC, you remember President Kagame went to Angola after coming from Namibia and Mozambique. Okay? So Mozambique and Namibia know this. Now Angola, which represents the SADC and DRC, know this. So the SADC is clear and the East African community is clear. I would like soon the next mediator to be someone, ECOWAS. To be ECOWAS. Because that will be the next move.
Yeah, that's the next move. Now, before inviting ECOWAS in it, I think basing on the ad hoc commission meeting ahead on Monday, I think maybe things will be addressed. I'm going to ask you, Sam Kutesa, he's the foreign minister of Uganda, said they are going to put on the forefront of everything they do due process. Do you believe him?
Due process and Uganda in the same sentence is interesting. No, I don't. Unfortunately, I wish I would. I'm telling you, FDLR was invited to the DRC. Arms opened by DRC government, supported, funded, armed, organized. Today they have become a curse to that country, a calamity, a catastrophe to the DRC, one of the biggest catastrophes. Unfortunately, Congolese people like to pin all the bad things that the FDLR do to Rwanda. It's not us. We told Congolese that these people are bad, don't invite them to your country. We've been more than 20 years telling Congolese that FDLR are our common enemy, we should all fight them together. No, Congolese were always ambiguous about, this is Rwanda's involvement and so on. Rwanda is a victim like Congolese are victims of the FDLR. We are also victims of FDLR. Right today, only Rwandans are victims of RNC. I don't wish this to Ugandans. But time might come when Ugandans start becoming victims of RNC. It will not take long. Because the people in RNC are not in Rwanda for a reason. And that reason is not because we hate them. They are relatives. Their families here and so on. If they're in Uganda today, it's for a reason. That reason we have been clear about why they're in Uganda. If Uganda welcomes them, wants to be friendly to them more than we are with the people, their relatives, then, God forbid, these people will become a problem for Uganda. All the people that have a problem with us, who are in Uganda today, they will soon become a problem for Uganda. You can't. There's another saying in Kinyarwanda. Ngo inkoni kubise mukeba uyirenzu urugo. When someone has not succeeded in living well with their own people, you shouldn't invite them. Even if you invite them, you should not allow them to oppress their people that they left behind. If Kayumba has no love for Rwandans, how do you think he's going to have love for Ugandans? So, when you say that Sam Kutesa said it was going to be due process, that means removing every operative ofference into CMI, Chieftaincy of Military Intelligence, I think, of Uganda, whose duty is to looking for Rwandans and trying to find out which Rwandan is a spy and which Rwandan is not a spy. Rwanda is not the United States, so it doesn't have the KGB like Russia, doesn't have CIA size, doesn't have the money, doesn't have the ambitions to have thousands of spies. The moment you start stigmatizing every citizen of a different country as a spy, this is no different. This is xenophobia. It's no different from in South Africa saying all Nigerians are drug dealers, in the US saying all Mexicans are rapists. This is no different. When you start looking at every Rwandan citizen and call them a spy, then you have a serious problem. Now, when you say you're going to implement due process, what due process is going to be? How are they going to, the people whom they have welcomed into their homes, how are they going to tell them to leave? And if they ever tell them to leave, will these people live freely? Experience from FDLR shows us that the moment you tell these people that you have invited to leave, after you have armed them and give them guns and train them and open them doors to your secrets, they don't usually live nicely. You go into open conflict with them yourself. That's my experience from living in this region in the last 25 years. So listen, I may be pessimistic, but what do I know? Okay? Let me even end on a good, positive note. It's possible. Everything is possible. Nothing is impossible. Meetings are good. They're a good start. They're a good thing which we can meet as often as possible. But remember, no one will meet with you if what you agreed on last time has not been implemented and now you have to make new agreements. People will say, but you're wasting our time. We met last time. You said you're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4. You haven't. Why are we meeting this time? So, meetings in principle, we are a country that believes in constant quest for solutions through dialogue and consensus. That's what we believe in. Therefore, dialogue is good, consensus is good. But what the Rwandan Constitution tells us is that once you have dialogued, reached consensus, the next step is to implement the consensus. So, Rwandans and dialogue are synonymous. It's our job, it's our belief, it's our religion to dialogue and to reach consensus. But what sets us apart? And I'm glad Sam Kutesa said that they're going to do due process. Due process. If they use due process to implement what was agreed in the meeting, then things will go forward. But experience tells me, since the meeting in Angola to this date, that's a few months.
Yeah, it's a few months.
So that was a head of state summit. So that was very summit. That was very high level. Mm-hmm. What due process has ensued since then, which will inform us of the due process that's about to ensue today? Was there a due process then that we can base on? Because, like I told you, I would like to look at facts and look at how the pattern that they give so that we can deduct from it that there is something that's going forward or backward. Head of State Summit is much, much more important than Ministers' conference, MOU conference. Now, if the summit has not borne any fruits following when the summit was held, what tells you that now the MOU between ministers is what is going to bear fruits? Having said that, I hope it works out. Meetings are good, always. There's nothing, no one was ever killed by meetings. Let's have as many meetings as we can. Let's actually work together to address, because if Rwanda and Uganda work together as states, I'm sure they can find a peaceful avenue to this militia. Maybe it can be demobilized, deactivated, Kayumba given asylum on the condition that he's not going to seek military ends again, or denied entry into Uganda, his visa withdrawn, or maybe exiled for peaceful avenues, and so on. So dialogue can always come up with solutions, but that requires good political will. I have not seen it ever, and that's the problem. I have not seen it ever. History tells me that the relationships between Rwandans and Ugandans have not been characterized by good political will, historically speaking. So this will be new. To be as surprising, it will be a pleasant surprise to me as it will be to you. Rwandans and Ugandans are discovering the conflict today. And when you ask a Ugandan what the problem between their country and ours is, they tell you, but you closed the border. Closing the border, that's a recent phenomenon. This is a 2 decades old conflict, which started in DRC when Rwandan army and Ugandan army clashed to this date. Since then, several actions. Rwandans can tell you that they've been trying to export goods to Kenya through Uganda, and these goods will be detained, and these are perishables, so milk and things like that. These goods will be detained in Uganda until they rot, and Rwandans incur losses. Consistently, Ugandan goods would come to Rwanda unhindered. To date, Rwandan goods were unheard of in Uganda because whenever Rwandan goods went to Uganda, there were non-tariff barriers. Regardless, in total violation of the Continental Free Trade Area, of the East African Common Market Treaties, and so many paper treaties, Ugandans have been undermining Rwandan economic businesses systematically for 2 decades. So when I tell you that when people think Rwandan conflict and Uganda conflict is today, it's because Rwanda decided to speak up and to take action today. We've never retaliated. I'm telling you, this is a 2 decades old oppressive relationship in which Rwanda has been taking in oppression and keeping quiet. I'm telling you, goods were never safe to transit through Uganda. The people think, Ugandans came to think that Rwanda live off of Uganda. It's not true. It's just that the Rwandan goods on the Ugandan market are not safe. Ugandan economy, Ugandan people systematically undermine Rwandan goods on the Ugandan market. Even Rwandans believe that Ugandan goods are what we need, but we have nothing to export there. We have, right? Congolese people know that we export beans, we export beef, we export milk, we export lots of things in DRC. But on the Ugandan market, these things had been systematically undermined. I'm telling you, they rot in containers. This is for ages. Yet Ugandan goods come to Rwanda freely. So this relationship is a bad relationship for 20 years or more. But Rwandans decided to speak up on the 20th year because they could not take it anymore, because it reached the level where there was a militia now. So all these years there were bad faith and sabotage and things like that. But the moment you create an army within your army, the moment you start detaining people and torturing them, we could not take it anymore. So if Rwandans and Ugandans are discovering this conflict today, it's because Rwandans wanted to speak it out. Which is when I'm telling you that I'm pessimistic about Ugandans saying they will use due course or due process, it's because they haven't done it in the last 20 years. It's not because Rwandans didn't signify to them openly that they were unhappy with their treatment of Rwandan and Ugandan relations. It's because Ugandans never made any promise which they ultimately implemented. So this is an old conflict. It's not a new conflict. Closing the border or travel advisory, however they call it, or reducing the amount of trucks that go through a border or whatever, that is the last bit. That's the action that Rwanda took. Uganda has been taking systematic actions throughout the years. So the fact that I did research on this today is because Rwanda informed me that there was a problem today. All these years, Rwanda and Uganda acted as though all was well, like in a typical oppressive marriage that I told you about. Children believe all is well among the parents, but one parent is being abused systematically, sometimes forever. So people who think this is a new conflict, they don't. This is a very, very old conflict. in which Rwanda has been keeping quiet. It's only that Rwanda acted now, and also because Uganda crossed the line. So bad faith we could deal with, militia we can't deal with. We can't take this. Militias, people being tortured. This was a step too far. But Uganda thought, like in an abusive marriage again, that Rwanda can take anything. So they can do, so long as we don't have military confrontation, they can do whatever they want on their territory and we will keep quiet, which is what we have been doing. Do you see?
Yeah.
So this, I wanted to make this also very clear. So what I want to share with you is, Rwandans and Ugandans, having lived together for a long time, they are intertwined. Just like Rwandans are intertwined with Congolese, with Tanzanians, with Burundians. So many things are said and heard. That's fine. It is best to look at the facts. And this is the call upon Rwandan citizens, regular citizens, and Ugandan citizens. What are the facts? Is the issue that I told you about Rwanda being in Kampala, taking passengers, is that a fact? You can come up with 20 reasons. Uganda wants to build its own airline, fine. But there's also Qatar and Emirati and all sorts of foreign airlines that are doing it. Why is Rwanda not doing it? And why has that? What does that have to do with Uganda reviving its airline? That's one. The Gariamoshi project, that's a fact. The electricity project, that's a fact. It's a fact. The people who are tortured, they can show you their wounds. They can show you on their body the stigmas of being beaten up, being tortured, being electrically shocked. Those are facts. So we have facts. Are all Rwandan spies? I hear this not only in this region. I hear this in Paris. I hear this all over the world. Foreign media write this. Oh, Rwandan spies roaming the world and so on. This is not invented, by the way, today. This started from Hassan Ingeze. That's what I'm trying to say. Everything that you see today has history. Abatutsi Byitso, the 10 Commandments of the Hutu. This is Hassan Ingeze work. This is Gitera. This starts from 59. So when somebody tells you today that Rwandans are spies, this is genocide ideology. We must not trust Rwandans. This is not new. So when people say that today for political gains, by the way, it's a very good political token to turn. I believe the government in Uganda, the people in power in Uganda, were under very strong political pressure from the opposition in Uganda, that this was a very good way of turning the attention of Ugandans to rally against the government in place. So the Ugandan government has actually gained a lot from the conflict with Rwandans. I can see Ugandans have rallied all together against Rwanda. This works in Uganda, this works in Tanzania, this works in DRC. Every neighbor, anti-Rwanda rhetoric in all these countries. I'm telling you, genocide already started probably by Belgians back in the day. You must not trust Rwandans, they're sneaky, it's not true. We're just normal human beings like everybody else. So when you hear this, it's not new. When I hear it, it's not new to me. It's as old as they. But look at the facts and judge by yourself. I think that's the best way to approach this issue. Thank you very much.